it is hugely inspiring for women to see leaders like them. They want to see someone like them up there. And I think in that sense, it's important to have women in the leadership, women on the board, etc.
Thank you very much for joining in today. It's an absolute privilege and a pleasure to reconnect with everyone, our distinguished panelists who are handpicked because of the think input and the rich experience they bring in. And thank you to our distinguished audience for joining us again. We've received over 100 plus registrations, most of whom are CEOs and CXOs and senior leaders. Many of them are our members and our repeat visitors as well. So which is very encouraging and provides us motivates us to provide even higher levels of dialogue through the online modes as well. So for those of you who are new with us today, Blue Circle is an exclusive community and ecosystem which is curated for business leaders across 4 fundamental sectors, which are real estate, e-mobility, energy, and healthcare. Very soon, we'll be adding 4 new sectors to our portfolio, which is aerospace and defense, retail, BFSI, and logistics. We also present socioeconomic insights, which ultimately determine the evolving complexion of the market. In response to the COVID challenge, the Blue Circle has also accentuated its digital presence. One of the many modes we employ is our weekly webinar series, our active publication. And in addition to this, and you'll be happy to know that we're very soon launching a unique, exclusive digital platform for leaders, somewhat like the LinkedIn for Leaders, wherein we will present you with the opportunity of connecting with other leaders such as yourselves, also house high quality curated content, meaningful conversations, and business opportunities across the sectors. For those leaders who are interested, please do write to us. We've begun our selective outreach and we have over 3,000 senior leaders who've signed up in the last couple of months. And today, for our third session as part of Women's Leadership Week, we're privileged to have super achievers who've joined us for our real estate circles discussion. Sophia Hayden Bennett was the first woman to receive an architecture degree. She graduated from MIT in 1890, however, could not get a job as an architect because she was a woman. That was then. As women become increasingly prominent in real estate, we're here today to discuss the achievements of women in the real estate space, the challenges faced by them, the way forward so that their ilk and industry can march ahead together. The topic for this session is how women leaders are catalyzing real estate. And now, in the best interest of time, I will just briefly mention the names and designations of the leaders who've joined us. We have with us Ms. Pavitra Shankar, Executive Director, Brigade Group, Ms. Riza Sebastian, President, Residential Embassy Group, Ms. Sangeeta Prasad, former MD and CEO, Mahindra Life Spaces, and independent consultant. Our chair and moderator for the session is Mr. Pavan Chaudhary, best-selling author, public intellectual, CEO of French multinational, and sits on several boards across the country. Welcome, ma'ams and sir, and thank you once again. And now I request Mr. Chaudhary to please begin and moderate the session, sir.
Thank you very much, Siddharth, and welcome everybody. It is said that an average man spends 84% of his life in buildings, and the rest of the time is also spent around buildings. And we have 3 super achievers today who have influenced building landscapes in whichever city that they've lived in as part of the real estate industry. Without getting into the preamble of the discussion right now, let me first ask them one by one to tell you where they are coming from, what are their achievements and contributions, and then we will come to the session so that you get a context of the speaker panel. Let me begin with Sangeeta. Sangeeta.
Hi, from Calcutta, traveled across the country to make my career as well as my life. Minerals, metals, and real estate make me. So I'm quite habituated to a world full of men and some women. And here I am today to talk to all of you. Thank you for the privilege.
And you were also on the board of IIM Lucknow, and you are an alumnus from there, isn't it, Sangeeta?
Yes, I think I'll leave my accolades for others to know. I think that's enough.
Okay, Riza.
Hi, Riza. I'm from Bangalore. At Embassy, I head the residential business, been part of the leadership team for more than 14 years now. And my portfolio is valued at about $1 million. And I oversee about 30 million square feet of ready, ongoing, and proposed residential developments across Bangalore and Chennai. Yeah, that's what I am.
Wonderful. Pavitra.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Pavitra. I am an executive director at Brigade Group, born and raised in Bangalore. This Brigade is actually a family business, which I had no intention to ever be a part of, but that's life. Somehow, I ended up being in real estate, which was of my own decision when I lived in the US, where I worked and studied for over 17 years. And I came back to India in 2016. Since then, I've been involved with the residential sector. It's been great going for us for the last 5 years, and we are continuing to do well here. So yeah, I mean, that's just a little bit about me, and looking forward to the discussion.
Great. So, and you've given a very good opening by saying that this was not what you wanted to be, and I'll come to that in a moment. Though the field of real estate, construction, architecture has been influenced by women from times immemorial. However, they were not formally allowed to participate in this space. There are several designs which are credited to them, but which were plagiarized by men. For example, the powder room. The powder room in homes came because of ice and cold delivery boys who used to come every day. And they used to come from various houses, and there used to be once in a while some infection, some pandemic. So it was the women of the house who wanted a powder room at the entry of the house where these ice and cold delivery boys could wash up and clean themselves before they entered the precinct of the inner precinct of the house. That came from women. Even the built-in cupboards, they came from women. They were popularized by Corbusier, but they came from women because women found it difficult to move furniture. Cupboards earlier used to be standalone equipment which you had to be moved from one place to another, difficult to clean below, etc. So many such inventions or ideas came from women, but women did not get credit for it. In fact, Siddharth started it very well by saying that the first architect who got a degree in architecture could not practice architecture. So that has been the story so far. I just wanted to start on that note and ask Pavitra, what are the other challenges which women face in this sector? And before that, I would like to ask you, why is it that you did not consider this sector as the one meant for you to begin with, Pavitra?
Yeah, well, number one, I just didn't want to do what my parents did. So I just didn't want to be part of the same thing just because that's what kids do when they're teenagers and feeling a little rebellious. I actually was just on a very different plane. I just thought I would, at some point, I wanted to be an architect, but I just didn't have the wherewithal. I felt like I couldn't draw any straight lines. So what was the point? But yeah, I wanted to have my own path. So I was studying in the United States. I've been good with numbers, so I continued to do finance and so on. But when I applied for business school is kind of when I was thinking about what is my story? What do I want to do with life? And what I thought was just a good reason to write an essay for an MBA sort of became true. It just made me evaluate what are my options out there. And I thought about the business that my parents had created, thought about all the dinner table conversations. And mainly it was, how are we going to take this forward? Like this is something that they have built out of so much hard work. And for me, I just wanted to have that sense of purpose. So it wasn't so much real estate. I mean, I know we're talking about real estate today, but it was about something that gave me purpose, and it happens to be in real estate. And for sure, the fact that it is a real estate business did not mean that I held back in any way. So of course, we always get the questions of how come, why do you want to get involved in this kind of business? And I think those are the challenges. Those are the stereotypes that people feel, or they may think that they know about real estate, that it's a dirty business. You're on the construction site. You have to deal with so many men. Why would you want to deal with that? But in most companies, and even ours, it's not a 50-50 male female ratio. So it's a little difficult in that sense. And in real estate, most of the companies, at least in India, are traditional companies. They're Indian companies. And in terms of corporate culture, Indian companies still have a way to go, especially while there are companies that are run extremely professionally. Many of the real estate companies are promoter driven, one person and typically one man shows. So it seems like it is a little harder to sort of establish a more corporate culture, although those things are changing. And generally with improved corporate culture, you get better structure and policies that are more women friendly. So until that is sort of established, I think real estate will continue to be seen as a difficult industry for women. That said, I think there are a lot of great things about the industry, which I know we'll be talking about. But the biggest challenges, I would say, are a lot of stigma, which if someone just scratches the surface, I think they will feel and they will realize that it is like any other company and has the same challenges and benefits of having women in the workforce.
Great points. So you are saying that because it has a site component, there might be certain challenges which are shared by any other industry which has a strong site component. And the skew is in favor of male, which is also true at senior levels, because in civil engineering, we find 4:1 is the ratio between male to females, and only 20% of these part of the females pursue their work in the construction sector. So men also require certain civic education, etc., to give the support systems to the women, and this can happen. This already is happening in multinationals to maybe a little greater extent, and good Indian companies like yours and the other present on this panel are also following suit. Safety equipment, etc., also has to be designed more with the woman in mind. And one of the insights we got was that women were even asking for apparel which was better suited for women visiting the sites. But those are the little specifics. Let us come back to the general challenge piece and ask Riza. Riza, are there any other challenges which women face as a gender in the real estate sector?
Pawan, I mean, I want to just take a humorous take on this and say, I'd like to see a man do his hair and makeup every morning, match his purse, shoes, jewelry each day, make it to the gym, take the kids to the bus stop, and be calm, cool, and collected for his 9 a.m. office arrival each day at the office. And, you should not get frustrated at work. Then women tend to face all kinds of labeling, maybe not for senior positions, but I'm talking about junior positions. Also, women have the tendency to write a Bible as a male, as an explanation. While men get away with writing one-liner mails, and that's good enough. So, but humor aside, I would say that I came across a very interesting statistic the other day. Increasing women's labor force participation by 10 percentage points could add $770 billion to India's GDP by 2025. And the representation of women in Indian construction industry is at a dismal 8%. And most of them are in this unskilled labor segment, and handful of them in technical, strategic, and management positions. And the reason there have not been so many women leaders in real estate is that few women went into it 20 to 25 years ago. It takes that long to rise to the top. And traditionally, real estate has been like Pavitra said, family-dominated businesses and largely promoter-led. Coming to my personal example, a decade ago, the chairman of Embassy Group, Mr. Jeetu Virvani, pushed me out of my comfort zone, actually. And he entrusted me with the responsibility of building a team at Embassy Residential. The team was comprised of only 3 people. And to build the brand and head the residential division. So it was a tremendous show of support and belief in my capabilities. And I had the opportunity at that point. I was a mother, or my children were just 2 years old. I had twin girls, but I plunged into that role head on. I could have walked away because citing personal situations, but I decided to take that challenge head on. Over the years, as the industry has become more institutionalized and more professionals enter it, I think over the next 10 to 15 years, we are going to see a lot of top women leaders emerge as fresh talent keeps entering this industry. What do we see is the issue, right? There are several reasons or challenges that women face at the workplace. And one is about being held to a much higher standard than their male counterparts, to facing persistent gender stereotypes. And women are systematically placed on an uneven playing field. So there is an aspect of being treated equally or not. The other is, I would say that women are very poor at advocating on their own behalf. Ambition in men is considered a sign of strength, but women do not rely on their ambition being perceived as a positive attribute, so they tend to step back. There is an aspect of trusting their own voices. For women in business, it's a challenge to trust your unique aspects of a female executive president and acknowledge them as personal and organizational assets. We are also maybe slightly poorer on networking. Men learn to play the game very quickly through long-standing business conventions, but women tend to find or need to find alternate routes to build those mutually beneficial alliances. And if you've actually seen, when men apply for jobs, right, women will only apply to a role if they meet 100% of a job advertisement, whereas men will apply if they meet 60%, and they're good with that. But so this aspect of the systemic bias and inequality, women have a very difficult challenge of forming an accurate self-assessment about themselves. So what needs to be done? There are a whole lot of things to be done, but I think it starts with the woman itself, where I think you need to keep aside the fact that a perception of gender as an obstacle exists, and work on enhancing your relevant competencies and seek out high value assignments which will further your position in the company, and just be determined to excel.
Excellent points. In fact, the first point which you made was made by all the political thinkers of the 19th century, around 1850s, when they started campaigning for women's rights and electoral suffrage, women's suffrage, as well as women's right to property. So the first point which they made was economic, which you said, that you deepen the pool. And if you deepen the pool of talent, you will of course get better talent. Second point which they made was political, that you give her the right to vote. And when this point was made in the British Parliament, the entire Parliament laughed. Why? Because the word which they proposed, that the right to vote should go to a person. Earlier it was man. When people wanted to change man to person, there was huge ridicule and pushback, and the motion was defeated. And third, the point, which also to some extent carried the day and carried the crusade further, was social upsurge. They advocated that there will be so much of more happiness if this whole category of human beings, which has been property of man, is liberated. On the economic front, McKinsey has recently done a research, which says that women, and the teams in which there are women also, they usually are more likely to perform 21% better on bottom line than the male-only teams. The cynic in us may ask, I hope this 21% better performance in bottom line is not because of lower pays to the women in those teams. But no, it is really women are seeming to be more prudent as managers. And the last point which you made was, so women are not so such hustlers, they will not negotiate so hard. And also perhaps networking opportunities for women are lesser. Men can easily bond over a beer or a golfing session, but when a woman would do the same, she may not be seen so fairly by the society. Yeah. Great points, great points. Let me come to Sangeeta now. Sangeeta, you bring a rich experience of minerals and as well as real estate. What is your view of the challenges which women face as a gender in these sectors, particularly real estate?
Thanks, Pawan. I thought that let me bring a different take on this particular aspect and say first a few positive things about real estate. So here we are, three women who have, through their merit and capability, reached a certain point in their career. Being the MD, former MD and CEO of a Mahindra company, Riza as president of Embassy, and Pavitra as executive director of Brigade. So there is hope. So ladies and gentlemen, brace yourself. If you are confident, if you are competent, and you're willing to take the challenge and go ahead in life, real estate is no different from any other sector. And let me now take my posit forward. Since, as Pawan said, I've had the privilege of working in non-real estate environment also, it's not as different as it is in other parts of the business ecosystem. The most important thing is to dispel the notion of a negative perception. You know what happens? Anything which has to do with brick and mortar, anything which has to do with metals and minerals, which is hardwired, historically, the society dissuades women from entering there. So it is important for us and the audience to collaborate and understand it is no different. It is as good as any other sector. Yes, there are sites, but there are sites in manufacturing companies also. Yes, there are different types of people. I can tell you, even in the financial world, there will be different types of people. So the challenge, the first and foremost challenge, is the perception which we have created about real estate, and that's the notion we need to break heavily. And here we are, all of us sitting, talking to you. We have, in our own humble way, tried to break that notion, tried to work towards and push. And the second thing which I would like to say is the leadership ecosystem in a real estate company. As there are more men, I don't think the men are not wanting to, but they may not have the wherewithal to understand and empathize with women folk at large. And they may be happy to, but they may not be able to. So the first step is to see as leaders how we are bringing in more and more women in the ecosystem. As the audience as well as the team gets a little diverse, different thought processes emerge, and then we can work towards a more equitable and equal ecosystem. And I can assure you, people in the short run may feel if you are a woman, you are not as capable. If you come in, show your capability, be confident and comfortable around you, people warm up to people who are good and competent. And I have seen that, and I'm sure the other two ladies will vouch for it, that we have risen to where we are because of these qualities. So I would exhort that don't get dissuaded by real estate from outside. And on a lighter note, women are very good homemakers. What is real estate about? It is about building homes, building spaces which we occupy, whether work or home or a factory. So we are just born to work there. And I think Pawan mentioned about some of the innovations which women were not credited for. In the post-COVID world, the art of empathetic design of spaces is becoming very, very crucial. And if you are an architect, and you need not be Sophia Hedden, I'm sure if you are competent and confident, you will get your place under the sun. If you're a project manager or a salesperson, just go for it. Don't work on the perceptions. The challenges are for you and me to break. That's how I see real estate.
Great points. So also, of course, we have to be conscious of the fact that this panel is of Everest climbers, and they are setting the path. They are all big achievers in the space of real estate. They are clearing the path for others, and I do agree with you, Sangeeta, that the civic education in different industries might be at different level, and if the civic education among our support workers is brought to the same level, we can have a similar comfort as women have, for example, in hospitality or media, etc., as in a real estate sector. The other point which you mentioned was that if there is diversity in the power circles, if more and more women reach senior positions in real estate, they will be able to sensitize the sector faster to the needs of a woman. And coming back to Pavitra, on the other side of the coin, which Sangeeta left us with, woman is a homemaker, and really woman might be bringing certain unique strengths to the real estate sector. What do you think are these strengths which women bring, let us say, more intensely to this sector?
I think my answers in most of these will be of addressing two sides. One is real estate specifically, and two is for any organization, any company. How do we reduce the challenges for women getting into the workforce? And what are the traits? I wouldn't say better traits. I'd say complementary traits or different traits that enable women to maybe bring a different style of leadership or different type of contribution to the company. Specifically in real estate, Sangeeta already mentioned that design is a huge aspect, and I really think that, and I've said this many times in our own company, and our design team is almost entirely women. A woman actually knows how the house needs to be run, and it's not just about how many bedrooms. It's about storage. It's about efficiency in your kitchen and utility and all of those things. And while the decision is certainly made by both parties in any household, I think a woman has a more clear understanding of how it needs to work. And therefore they have, it's sort of like the user is giving you these inputs, and therefore it is like custom designed to how a user would like to have their house built. So I think on the design aspect, women can bring a very different perspective, and it is actually the way in which you need to build a house. It's not just how it looks and how fancy and how beautiful it looks, but how easily can you maintain your home? To me, that's really important. Just as running my own household, like how easily can I maintain it is important. Sangeeta had also mentioned empathy. And I think empathy is really important when you sit across the table from a customer. You can connect with the lady of the household. You understand her, mindset and what she's looking for in the home. That's not to say our male salespeople don't do that, but I think it's also nice to just see a counterparty who may share your same thoughts and have that commonality there. So it's more a sense of feeling that reflection or replication across the table from you. And I also think in dealing with customers, in helping the customer sort of get through their issues with the entire sales process or the handover or whatever, women can sometimes be more accommodating and more understanding, or maybe lend a ear and willing to listen. Number one, I feel customers just want to be listened to and heard out, and then they're ready for a solution. So in that sense, I feel that women can, bring that perspective to it. But overall, I would say in a company, in a management position, or even as someone trying to rise up the ranks, some qualities that are generally more depicted in women is that we try to balance all stakeholders when we're trying to make a decision. That's important. especially as you climb up the ladder. Also important is to put your ego aside. Somehow I feel women just naturally do that, or you have to do that, or we just don't pay as much attention to optics, and we'll do something if it is good for the greater, if it is for the greater good. Some of these things can also be seen as negative, right? Like, why should we have to put these things secondary just because it's for the greater good? And when we don't do those things, that's perceived as women being ultra aggressive or whatever it may be. But I don't want this to be an us versus them. I think we just bring very different strengths. And it's about the company culture, whether in real estate or not, to be able to accommodate and reward both these things. So in general, I would feel while there are some things women might do differently, I think it's overall like a part of a larger thing. So from that sense, I don't want to necessarily say we are better at certain things than men.
Yeah, I get your point, and the idea is not to get into an hierarchical ordering of strengths, but to highlight certain differences which women bring to the table. For example, as a famous political thinker John Locke said, that a man who is naturally well built will gravitate towards blacksmithery, and the other people will gravitate to other trades which suit their build. That time it was more physical piece. So all are required. So women also perhaps have certain qualities which are innate in them, and there are some others which can be acquired, and where maybe the latter might be a part of the innate quality of man. But these qualities which you have mentioned, and I fully agree with this, women know how the house is to be run. So they know their say in design is very important and valuable. Secondly, because of their empathy and also because of their lesser ego levels, I'm talking about the median woman, they are perhaps better suited for project management. They also bring balance and perhaps greater receptivity in handling customers. That is, I really feel like that, because there are, and you see how many women are going into the space of selling in so many sectors and so successfully. Coming to you, Riza, what do you think are the other qualities which women might bring on to the table in real estate?
So Pavan, I would say that today a majority of the firms recognize the benefits of diversity under this current she economy, I would say. And very important aspect when it comes to selling is that female buyers today almost control 70 to 80% of all the purchases, which means they are in a position to make a decision. The husband may write the check, but the woman controls about 70 to 80% of the decisions of purchases are all controlled by women. So when a woman actually sits on the other side of the table and she's actually suggesting a property to a prospective buyer, she is in a better position to make the right calls. And I completely agree with Pavitra and Sangeeta when they say that, you know, the qualities of empathy, persistence, they are very intrinsically there in our DNA, and therefore client relationships are honed to a very large extent. And I attribute this particular quality that I see, especially in the space that I'm in of doing high value luxury transactions, where a great amount of patience is required to nurture leads, since the closure time period is extremely long. You know, we did a transaction a couple of years ago. It was a 50 crore transaction to a single gentleman. Um, uh, he had bought a home of 16,000 square feet. It's the largest deal done in the south of India to a single owner. And the process of doing that sale, he came to us to buy a 1-bedroom home and then potentially upscale, upgrading his requirement to what it was. And the whole process of doing that was extremely unique. And we had women who were actually front ending the deal. there was a situation where, he had to actually come to the site, and we organized. It was a bare shell apartment. He had no way to imagine how it would be to live in that space. And we were nearing the end of the transaction. We knew we would be able to crack the deal. And we actually organized a tea for him in his house, in his 2B house, where he could watch the sunset. So there he was on the 30th floor. We organized his complete tea and coffee and everything for him and his family. And he sat there. And that whole idea, conceptualizing it and putting it together, was done by women. So I say that women tend to be more nurturing. They tend to be more sensitive and more patient towards the client's needs. And another aspect that women tend to bring to the business is a much more balanced and a very dispassionate outlook, So, and they're good at balancing work and family. Hence, they're better at multitasking, which is a very critical aspect in real estate, owing to the nature of the business. They are also able to assess the needs of the prospective party in double quick time and offer to them the properties that they know will make sense to them. There is that innate ability of intuition that fundamentally suits women, and perhaps I think I would say in some cases more than men, And I don't want to restrict career options for women to just marketing and sales. I think today there are several options available for women to make a career in real estate. It's in property management, in design, in finance, in administration, in project management, development, audit, quality, marketing, IT. I think the options are so diverse today, and it should not just be restricted to marketing and sales. And I think this whole reticence about joining the real estate industry, it's been the mindset of women over the years, and no one has held us back as much as we have held ourselves back. So it's up to us to correct that.
Yeah, no, great points. In fact, I'm reminded of a dialogue with another lady I know who runs a very successful chain of pet shops. When you gave me that example of the gentleman being taken to his prospective house and made to enjoy his the sunset there with a cup of tea in his hand, sitting perhaps in the balcony. So she said, I was asking her, how come you're so successful? She said, I am so successful because I do not try to sell any pet to anybody, no puppy sale. I just let the people who are interested in having a pet take that little puppy for 1 or 2 days to their home. And then he puts his wet nose around their cheeks and he blinks at them and he runs around them, and there is no sale I have to do. Okay. And that was really and I found that most of the people who have gone to her shop came back with a puppy which they had not purchased on a sample basis, and they ultimately were sold to the idea. So great point you made. I really feel that women bring that kind of receptivity to the needs of the other person, and they are extremely skilled at this. And the other areas also you've mentioned are growingly getting populated by women force. Any other thing you, Sangeeta, you think which women bring to this sector? You're on mute. You're on mute. You're still on mute.
Trying to I'll take the discussion. Is it okay now?
Yes.
A little different tack on the discussion. So before we get into how women are different and so on, which I think eloquently both the other lady panelists spoke about, and I will have some points there as well. I think let's look at the brass tacks. Almost 50% of the population in a ecosystem are women. Yes, women getting into higher studies less, but still it's increasing. I remember when I joined IIM Lucknow in the 90s, we were 9 out of 90, and we used to call ourselves Navratna. But when I became a board member in IIM Lucknow, the percentage became 47%. So you see, the world has traversed a lot. So the first thing I would like to say is the challenge is how do we leverage this proportion of women coming into the workforce and also in real estate. So there are women available. They are good in many faculties. I would agree with the other two panelists that it's not only one function over the other. I've seen young girls vying to get into project management. Girls are good in maths, friends, ladies and gentlemen. They are good in physics as much as you men are, as well as in history and literature. So what is happening is the first challenge and the opportunity we have in front of us is how do we leverage and how do we create a ecosystem as leaders that these women come into the workforce and don't get lost in the wilderness. So that's one point, because they have two things, the innate qualities which we spoke about just now of empathy, about consensual kind of leadership. The other thing I would like to say is in real estate more so, and specific to real estate more than any other industry where I have worked, the business is done interfunctionally. Like in manufacturing, the businesses can afford to be functional and siloed in nature. But if you are doing a private equity negotiation, then you need legal, you need finance, you need people from business development, you need people from strategy getting together. And I have seen as a leader, and I'm giving my personal view on this, I found it very seamless to get interfunctions working together to create a product, whether it is a product which we sell or a private equity negotiation or any other negotiation with a B2B counterpart, easier and better. And I think that's a unique quality which is very specific to real estate and infrastructure. You don't require it as much in manufacturing. I don't say that you don't require it, period, but as much. So that's one quality I would like to bring about. And because women are able to get people together, multifunctional, multitasking, as well as listening to the other side before getting a point of view across. So these are the softer managerial qualities. As far as functional traits are concerned, Pawan, I would say there is no boundary.
There's
no boundary. These perceptions about girls log design karengi, girls log is HR mein jayengi, this is long past. I am a STEM product, and I can say that STEM is as comfortable to me as humanities subject is, and there are many women like that. So that is the other perception. The world is an oyster as far as, and even in real estate, and girls are coming in. And here I like to leave a word of caution. A woman in the early periods of her life needs to realize that it's not only the company who's responsible to build her career. She also needs, as she's building homes or constructing workspaces, she needs to build her career. And that's where we women are sometimes little reticent to build our own career. I've had this problem, or to negotiate a salary, or to be upfront. So it is a two-way street. It is not a one-way street. This is my in my experience, a very important point. I have not done it as well. I would like the young girls to do it better.
Great points. So it's very interesting when we see the political rights to women came 100 years back, but still only 20% women are parliamentarians worldwide. That means there are certain things which perhaps we are not talking about in the political space, which is not allowing women to come forth in a proportion which is commensurate with her population as compared to men. And I would like to ask Pavitra, what is the proportion of women in real estate? And what is the proportion of women in real estate boardrooms or senior positions? Because those figures will perhaps tell us or help us unravel certain things which will help us tell the truth well to the public, where all the sector has strong potential for women, as you have already mentioned, and I fully agree. And which are the places this sector needs to improve, to become more woman friendly, For that also, all of you have given some very good suggestions, including women in power. But Pavitra, what are the figures in the sector? Women participation and women participation in leadership in real estate.
Well, women participation generally in the real estate sector is pretty low. It's probably in the teens or something like that. In our company, it may be slightly better, but it's still not great. It's like in the mid 20s, but I'm not proud of that. But like Sangeeta said, and like Riza said, people have to come, women have to come forward and want to be there. One is you have to get people to join the company, and two is you have to get them to stay in the company in order to get into positions of leadership. Regarding board, I'd say that there are 2-3 different shifts happening right now. Again, in many real estate companies, if they're traditionally, many of them are family owned, etc., you will probably see women on there. You'll see daughters, mothers, wives, everyone sitting on the board. But the question is, how are they contributing, right? And I don't mean to say, well, actually, yeah, I'm going to say there's no point having women on there if they're just there to represent and be a token. Today, while it is good that the government has mandated one independent director has to be female, I mean, that's good because that's how you start the movement and that's how you require people to look beyond and seek out candidates that would fit that role. At the same time, that has to only be the initial thing. We should not be happy with just meeting compliance and so on. Why not have 100% female board? I mean, nobody even would consider, people would find that odd today if you had that. Whereas in today's world, we're all okay with all male boards, or maybe, reserving a seat for a female board member. So in all listed companies, there is at least one woman on the board because of independent directors. In our company, because of my sister and me, we are 2 whole-time directors. I have a funny story on that. In 2018, we were both inducted onto the board of directors. My mother was also sitting on the board at the same time. And before it became the law, we had a independent woman director as well. So after the AGM in which we were inducted on the board, one of the shareholders stood up and said, "Very good, you have 4 women on the board. Let's see if you'll do better this year." So, the expectations are also high. It's also like, okay, if you're really bringing so much diversity and performance to the board, let's actually see that happen. So I would say the numbers aren't great, but we also need high-performing people to take those seats on the board and to inspire women who want to come up the ladder as well. They don't want to just see a woman for the sake of it. They want to see someone who's going to inspire them to do the same thing, to contribute and to see their impact on the company and then the employees at large. We just celebrated Women's Day at our company. And, while everyone has different opinions on Women's Day, I have to admit it is hugely inspiring for women to see leaders like them. They want to see someone like them up there. And I think in that sense, it's important to have women in the leadership, women on the board, etc. One other small point, I would just say, we've all been talking about what women need to do. Honestly, I think we're saying, okay, women who want to do will do it. But the whole ecosystem has to change, where both men and women really want this together for society, for their homes, for their families, for the companies. It's always seen as the woman has to go home and take care of the kids. And, I personally make it a routine for me to be home by a certain time, and I will get back on email later and finish things. Why is it not acceptable for a man to do so? Today, the men in our company will say, no, I can't do that. It will be looked upon. It's not just our company, it's across the board. They feel that if they were to go home and put family first, they would be seen as somehow not having the right priorities, or not being male enough, or not being aggressive enough. To me, this is a travesty. The best thing you can do is to invest in your families, to see your kids when they are small, and is to have that time with them. So I think together we have to really change some of those perceptions about what men and women seem to see as their roles, and truly make it interchangeable. And without that, I don't see how women can go on pushing the envelope tirelessly, because it is tiring. And not have anything truly change, because both sides will have to change to make that happen.
Excellent points. I think that was a very good point you made. You said we have to encourage them to come and join us. We have to encourage them to stay. And we have to encourage everybody to provide an ecosystem where they feel safe and nurtured. And the second point which you said was that family also is important, and that should be recognized by the corporates. I wish more people get a chance to work with organizations like yours, Pavitra. And I wish more organizations understand the role of family, and they also understand that Adam Smith brought a particular philosophy around which industrialization happened. And when industrialization happened, this 9 to 5 shift culture came. Now, with COVID striking us, we have realized that even when we do not follow this 9 to 5 timeline, we still can be more productive, and we are even more productive and happier if our 24 hours can help us look after our family needs. So great points you have made. And I think we have already crossed our time limit, but it was a great discussion. Thank you very much, all of you. I feel that the real estate sector really is a very fine place to find the creativity, to make the creativity, the receptivity, and the project management skills of women to flower. And with mentors like you, I'm sure the day is not far where we'll have much higher representation than we find today. Thank you very much, everybody. I pass it on back to Siddharth now.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'ams and sirs. Such a wonderful conversation. We're all inspired by today's discussion. In fact, I also want to proudly add that over 60% of Blue Circle is being driven by women. The curation, the marketing of this panel, and Women's Leadership Week has all been largely done by them, along with my partner Gautam, and they do a fantastic job together. So just wanted to briefly add that. And also thank you to our members and guests in the audience for joining in and staying on till the end. Along with our weekly webinar series, we also plan to take these discussions onto our digital exclusive platform. We're sending out invitations to our leaders across 4 sectors and adding 4 new as well. So whether you would like to join us as experts or as learners on our platform, please do write to us to join the real estate circle and the other allied circles which we're also adding on. So thank you very much, ma'ams and sir, once again, and thank you to the audience for being part of today's show.
Thank you.